Hello and welcome to the podcast of the Prison Officers Association, Britain's largest professional trade union for staff working in prisons and correctional centres, public and private mental health service trust providers, and immigration services, with nearly 35,000 members. In this episode, National Chair Mark Fairhurst gives an update on the process of submitting and securing a meaningful pay rise for public sector POA members. As you'll hear, the process is not at all straightforward, with many frustrations and delays requiring a patient approach from the union to get the best from a system that is far from the free collective bargaining the POA continues to campaign for. Mark, it's a key time of the pay review process year, as it were, and the union's recently made its submissions to the Prison Service Pay Review Body. Can you tell listeners what the bare bones of that submission were?
Yeah, sure. So every year, as is the norm with the POA, because we're professional and we care about our members, we make a concerted effort to get our pay submissions in on time because the pay review body set a deadline. And yet again, for consecutive years, HMPPS have failed to meet that deadline. And we had a meeting with the new chair of the pay review body where I made the point, what is the point of you setting a deadline for written submissions if one of the parties is going to consistently ignore that deadline? Because the POA could quite simply come along and say, you know what, stuff you, we'll get our written submissions in when we're ready, not when you tell us. Because year after year, this happens. It's absolutely ridiculous, bang out of order, and it needs to be addressed. So that's the first point I want to make. Reference our written pay submissions. Obviously, I cannot go into too much detail because once they have all the written submissions from the recognised parties, the pay review body will publish it on their website. So that's when members will be able to view it in full, warts and all. But the basics of our pay submissions are we're in a unique position this year because the thresholds for overseas workers, because of legislation changes, have increased. So, for example, before the legislation changes, people didn't have to earn as much as they do now to remain in the country and continue to work in the roles that they currently work in. So our new recruits from overseas, many of them have brought their families over and have made a great effort to join the job, now have to earn at least £41,700 to retain the right to work in this country. Now, those people working in our job who are listening to this will know that Band 3 prison officers come absolutely nowhere near meeting that threshold. We wrote to the government asking for an exemption. They've refused. We're still working on it. We're asking all those affected to write to their local MPs to put pressure on the government to change their mind. So bearing that in mind, we've actually offered the pay review body two scenarios. And one is to put the basic pay, the starting salary for prison officers of 41,700. So we don't lose any staff because we're going to lose a couple of thousand staff by our calculations. We can't afford to lose those staff. And the other scenario is if you don't run with that, then we want a percentage pay award. And what we're looking at, we've worked out that we're at least 12% behind the rate of inflation over the last 14 years. That needs to be rectified because it's simply not competitive with other public sector bodies. And that's why so many staff, both new and experienced, are leaving, for example, to join the likes of the police and the fire service, the NHS. A lot of people are joining the railways because they actually pay better now as well. So we're asking for a percentage pay rise to claw back that 12% over the next couple of years. So there are two main asks. We've obviously asked for an increase in payment plus the £30 an hour because that's company's policy. And we've asked them to look at an anomaly that we were made aware of in reference to OSG overtime. So that's the basics of our written pay submissions. And as I say, once they've got all the evidence in, they will publish it on their website and members are free to scrutinise that.
There are so many issues in there, Mark, aren't there? First of all, there's a very clear moral, ethical argument that says prison officer pay must catch up with where it should have been if this gap hadn't opened up over the last 14 years. But there's a practical argument as well, in the sense that the service can hardly afford to wave goodbye to a couple of thousand prison officers who are going to be affected by the increase in the threshold for migrant workers, as they're called, to stay in the UK. And if this was business, and if you take the union submission as like an invoice that you'd submit to an employer to pay, and they were late, you'd surcharge them, wouldn't you? It'd almost be, there should be another 5 or 10% added on for late payment, as it were. It's you and fellow full-time officers and NEC members must be like banging your head against a brick wall.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating. And we made this point to the new chair when we had an introductory meeting that we can't go on like this. We cannot go on accepting late submissions from an employer who treats its employees with such disdain that they really don't care. And they know that the paid review body can't really do anything about it because it's government led, and the paid review body need their evidence to make a judgment. So that's really frustrating from our part. And I did reiterate to the chair that, look, we haven't got the right to take industrial action, so we're in their hands, and we cannot accept any pay increase that's below the rate of inflation because we're still in a cost of living crisis. Let's make no bones about it. So that needs to be addressed. And then when it comes to overseas workers, what really annoys me about all this is, yeah, the government do need to tackle immigration, but don't deport people who are paying tax, national insurance, providing a public service, are working damn hard and making a life for themselves in this country and actually contributing. Don't target those people to fudge your figures so you can announce in Parliament, look what we've done. Look how many people we've deported. You're deporting the wrong people. Don't deport the hard-working individuals who've made a life for themselves in this country, are working in the prison service and shoring up regimes. Absolutely ridiculous.
So the next stage is obviously for the employer to finally get their submission in, and then the pay review body will publish the submissions and make a judgment on them. When can we expect that to start happening? When can we expect to see anything from that?
So they told us that they expect the written submissions from HMPPS sometime within the next 7 days. And then they will publish all the evidence from the interested parties. Only the interested parties, the recognised trade unions. Anybody else who sends anything else in is basically wasting the time because they won't entertain it. And then we'll have an oral session, so we'll be invited to give oral evidence. That'll be at some point before Christmas. And then hopefully the pay review body will give their recommendations to the government. I would envisage sometime in February or March, in the hope that we can actually get a pay award on time on the 1st of April next year.
And has the experience of previous years been that the 1st of April deadline has been met, or has it been late or very late?
It's been consistently late for the last 5, 6, 7 years because HMPPS are absolutely atrocious at doing anything on time, despite the vast resources they've got to get their submissions in on time. So consistently, we're looking at September, October every year where we get a pay award backdated, which obviously affects people who are on universal credit. So we're hoping that on the 1st of April 2026, it'll all be done and dusted. We'll be back on track and we'll get our pay award when we're supposed to get our pay award, which is April every year.
And of course, just in case anyone's listening to this, and there may be some people who think this is a bit of a strange way to sort out pay. This is not the union's preferred way of dealing with pay reviews each year, is it?
No, we want collective bargaining rights. We want to sit down with the employer and thrash out a pay award. But we'd also like the right to take industrial action if we don't agree with that pay award, because with collective bargaining, if you come to an impasse, then most unions then ballot their membership for strike actions in order to get an increased offer. We don't have that right. So that's why we're subject to a pay review body, which has worked in our favour actually over the last 3 to 4 years because we got the highest pay awards ever within the last 30 years that I can remember. which is testament to a union that doesn't have any industrial rights. It just shows you how persuasive our arguments are and how good our evidence is. So we're doing something right. But yeah, we'd much rather have our industrial rights restored, the right to take any form of industrial action up to and including strike action with collective bargaining over pay. But let's be honest, Labour ain't going to give us that, like previous governments have never given us that. They're just not going to give us it. They're not interested in giving us our right to strike back, and they're not interested in collective bargaining, despite what the headline in the news that this new legislation gives workers all their rights back. Well, it does for some, but it doesn't for prison officers.
My thanks to National Chair Mark Fairhurst. You can keep fully up to date by visiting poauk.org.uk. The website also contains details of how you can join the union should you not already be a member. Thank you for listening. I hope you have enjoyed what you have heard and will join us for the next episode of the POA podcast. Thank you and goodbye.